at the core of everything, we are a relationship business. And so if you can focus on your core competencies, not being distracted by social media, not being distracted by lawsuits or whatever, if you take care of people and you focus on relationships, you're going to be fine.
Welcome back to the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate, the podcast where top-tier realtors share their journey to success, giving you the insider tips and strategies to elevate your real estate game. I'm your host, Lindsay Favazza. Today, we're thrilled to have with us a realtor who has truly been a front runner in the industry. Brandon Doyle not only holds a bachelor's and master's degree in real estate, but he has also served on the Minnesota Realtors Board of Directors and was the past president of the St. Cloud State Real Estate Alumni Association. Brandon's innovative approach has earned him numerous accolades, including a nomination as Inman Innovative Realtor of the Year in 2014, as well as recognition from the Star Tribune, the Pioneer Press, and Maple Grove Magazine for his cutting-edge use of technology in real estate. In 2016, he was nominated for Realtor of the Year by the Minneapolis Association of Realtors and was listed as one of the most influential people in real estate by Inman News in 2017. His contributions to the field were further acknowledged when he was named a Rising Young Professional by Finance and Commerce in 2020. Today, Brandon is here to share his story, his strategies, and maybe a few secrets to his astounding success. Welcome to the podcast today, Brandon. We're super excited to have you.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Yes, we're very excited to hear about your career, how you got started, how you got into real estate. I'm super excited to hear about the bachelor's and master's in real estate because I feel like that's not as common, and I really wish it was more common. I wish after high school, people thought I should go to real estate school, but they don't really think that, right? So I'd love to hear about your path. Take us back to the very beginning. Take us back to when you first started, how you got into real estate, and what your story is.
Yeah, certainly. So I actually grew up in a real estate family. My father is a real estate agent. He's got about 2 years left before he wants to retire, but we're still working together. So that's been a fun journey.
Yeah.
And ironically, like growing up, I didn't want to get into real estate because I saw the long hours that he was working and he'd be gone on the weekends. And I just didn't think that was that great. And so I did like the sales side of it. I love the numbers. And so I thought, I think I'll go into commercial real estate. And it's more business focused. So I went on and I got a degree in commercial real estate. I actually graduated in 2008, right when the market crashed. So I was doing a few commercial appraisals for a company, a lot of, bank work. They were thinking about foreclosing upon on these warehouses and office buildings and stuff. I really enjoyed that. And I was actually working towards what's called the certified general. And then the business kind of dried up. There wasn't enough work for me. So I actually transitioned into hotel management, determined that I love working with people, but it's kind of a dead end career. There's only so much you can do there. Still love it. If I ever needed a part-time job, I would definitely go back and be like a front desk agent because I just love interacting with the people that are traveling and the business folk. But anyways, eventually I did go back into sales. I joined my father. That was probably 12 years ago. And we've been working together ever since. And he's getting ready to retire. So we'll see what the next chapter brings.
Yeah, I'm sure bittersweet for him because I'm sure he's loved to work with you over these last few years and kind of have you take the reins, but also very excited, I'm sure, to kind of have you take the reins and know that it's in good hands.
Yeah, so there's portions of the business that have completely transitioned, but there's other aspects that he's still involved with. And I think a lot of it comes back to just he enjoys what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so, you'd be bored if he was retired. So I'm encouraging him to keep at it as long as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like your experience in hospitality probably serves you really well. I know that there's been a lot of people that have had kind of those hospitality type jobs, whether it's a hotel, whether it's like restaurant service kind of industry. I feel like that really is a good kind of launching point for real estate because you really do kind of learn how to have the customer service side, which is such a huge part of real estate in general.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone that's been in the restaurant side, you see a lot of bartenders become agents, of course, but a lot of that is just the ability to interact with people, understand them, listen to them, and then conflict resolution as well. So if if you're in a stressful situation, which a lot of times at a hotel you might be, the phone could be ringing, there could be a line of people in front of you, but you need to make sure that that experience for that guest is a good one, and
Yeah.
so eliminate the distractions and just do the job. And so
Yeah.
without getting frustrated or flustered. And if you can do that, then those skills translate extremely well into real estate.
Yeah, I love that. So tell me when you first started, kind of how it was kind of getting your feet wet and, maneuvering through the business. What were some of the struggles you faced and what were some things that maybe came easy to you?
Yeah, on TV they don't show like the behind the scenes and the hustle, the
They
grind.
show like the girls getting out of the,
Yeah, where was the
Lamborghinis
luxury
with their
cars and
fancy
the luxury
outfits.
homes? I definitely had very humble beginnings. My friends were also recent college graduates, so eventually they did buy homes. But I really got my start with just kind of a hustling. Like I actually created flyers and I would go door to door with them, or I'd put them in the newspaper boxes, and I just had a goal of, how many activities can I do per day? And then how can I compound on that? My first listing was just this little old lady that had a townhome, and I had gone by her house so many times that she eventually was like, well, you obviously seem like you're hardworking. And like I helped her pack and all this stuff. And
Oh, I love
looking
that.
back, I worked really hard for that commission. It was a very small amount, but it was a good beginning. And so from there, you just take that evidence of success and you share that on social media. I think people knew that I had a good work ethic, that I would work hard for them. And so that really compounded quickly for me. Within the first year, I was one of the top agents within our company, and that was all in my own business too. So I really wasn't able to pull from family because my father already had all that business, right? Like my cousins were just going to use him,
Yeah.
and so mostly this was people that I knew through social settings, and then I did a lot with internet leads through our company back then.
That's really interesting that you bring that up because I know of a lot of realtors that are in our company and other companies that have, they get started in the business and it's like a family thing. We've got one realtor whose dad is a developer. So I think of people automatically just assume he's successful because of his dad. And I'm sure you had a lot of that too, where people are like, oh yeah, I'm sure that's where his leads came from kind of thing. How do you kind of overcome that, or do you just not care because you're like, you know what, that's not true and I just know what I've done? How do you kind of handle that pressure?
Yeah, I really stopped comparing myself to other people or caring a long time ago, because
Yeah.
like none of these agents are going to buy from me, right? I just need to be able to communicate with them effectively, build relationships that when we do have a deal together that it goes well. But as far as how much they make or I make, that's between them and their families and me and my family. So, and
Exactly.
I've also never really been one to worry about being the number one agent. I think a lot of those people are spending a lot of money and they're working a lot of hours.
Mhm.
I've really balanced trying to live a lifestyle by design,
Yeah.
and I'm passionate about what I do, but I also know when it's time to just stop.
Yeah.
So I value time with my wife. I like to go on trips, and one of the things that really has drawn me to real estate is that having that flexibility in our schedule. Of
Yeah.
course, we're still working a lot of hours, right? Like it's not just
When you go
easy.
on vacation is when your phone rings the most, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I try to, before and after. And one of the nice things about having a team or, being in a partnership is that you do have the ability to just turn it off and say, okay, well, while I'm gone, you need to contact this person.
Yeah.
And that's worked out really well for us, and something I would certainly miss once he retires. So.
Yeah. So is it just the two of you, or do you have anyone else on the team? Like, how has the team kind of evolved since you guys started, or since you started?
Yeah, so it's actually evolved over the years. So it started with just the two of us, and then we grew to a point where we needed additional help. And I think we might have started with a buyer's agent, which was foolish. We should have started with our assistant, but now we have a full time assistant. At one point, we had, I think, 5 agents working with us, all mostly full time. We were providing them leads, the classic internet leads, Zillow
Yeah.
leads, sphere of influence, extra open house opportunities, that type of thing. And then the economics kind of changed around 2019. Some of our sources that we were tracking, it used to be a good return, and now it was kind of like we were
Yep.
breaking even, and
Yep.
so we did have to have some tough conversations with some of those agents, and
Mhm.
mutually decided that it was better for them to go off on their own. And really, part of it too for me was that I saw a pathway where I could continue to grow the team, and I would be out of sales completely. Um, and I just didn't enjoy that as much. I
Yeah.
felt like I was like doing other people's business or whatever, versus focusing on my own. And like I
Yeah.
just enjoy the day to day. Like I like helping people find their dream home, or
Yeah.
figure out what it takes to make that next step in
Yeah.
their life and their journey. And so I wanted to get back to that, and I wanted to give my clients 100%. And so
Yeah.
we made a decision that it would just be the two of us, and then an administrative assistant. So
I love
once
that.
he retires, who knows what will I'll do? Maybe I'll join a different team, or form a team of my own again, and bring
Yeah.
on more people. But for now, I
For
think
now.
we're really happy with where we're at, and just managing our volume as well as our expenses.
Yep.
So I see with a lot of these teams, their expenses just balloon out of control. And I've always been all about my net number and not my gross number.
Yep. Yep.
So,
I feel
yeah,
like a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing you say how your kind of progression went, that you were like, yeah, gung ho, you get the buyer's agent. Oh, wait, we probably should have had an admin first. And then you do get a bunch of agents, but it's hard to kind of, manage that. And now you're not doing what you love, which is selling as much. You're more managing. And, I think that
yeah,
that's a really powerful thing, to share with people, because I think a lot of people think, oh, the next step is that I have to have a team. And the reality is like, no, you can just, you can have an admin and get more done, but you can continue to do this on your own and you're going to be okay. That comes with a
yeah.
whole other side of things that you have to deal with. So you have to be kind of prepared for that.
And when we think about a team, there's so many different ways you could build it. So you could have a simple partnership. You could have
Yep.
you plus a salaried employee. You could have a whole army of like consultants and contractors that are doing different things that they're specialists in. And so I kind of think of like all my marketing staff, all my partners they're all a part of our team as well. And so really focusing on, I want to spend most of my day on relationships. And so what do I need to do? What can I delegate or outsource? And who can do that more efficiently than
Yeah.
me? Like I could edit these videos, right? But like, how
But
many hours am I going to spend on that? I think my
exactly.
time is better suited
Yeah.
meeting with clients,
Yep.
and building those relationships. And so that's
Yep.
where I choose to spend my time.
So Inman has named you both influential and innovative. Why is that? What is the crux of those two nominations and awards? Because I feel like those are really big deals in our industry, and I think that you should be really proud of that. So explain why you think they gave you both of those.
Yeah, so this was at the time before it was a paid thing. So now, if you're not familiar, the people on the list, they all paid like $1,000 to be
Yeah.
on the list. So for the Innovator Award, that was use of aerial photography, like video, and 360 tours. We were the first in our state for both. So I actually was at an Inman conference when I saw the Matterport, and I was like, "That's really cool. I want to do that here in Minnesota." And so I did. It got picked up in the news, and so I got some press coverage from that. And then
Awesome.
someone locally reached out and was like, "Hey, you're not actually the first. I was." He has a photography company, and he was struggling to get agents to adopt it. And so I said, I really see the value in this. Let's team up. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to do this for hire, but agents are coming to me. So how about I just refer them to you? And so that actually worked out well. And it was fun to have someone in the industry that was very forward thinking that we could bounce ideas off of. So that was really cool. I was a nominee, and I was honored to be nominated. I didn't win. I think it was one of the big luxury agents won. Surprise, surprise. But they were also doing really cool things, and it was a fun experience to be out there. So
Yeah.
as far as the influencer goes, I think
Yeah.
it just comes down to social media clout. So followers on Facebook, YouTube, all that fun stuff. And then just always being engaged in the conversation, even if I'm not physically present. I like to reply on X and
Yeah.
keep the conversation going on Facebook. So I'm sure they just have a team that looks for that type of stuff.
That
And
kind of thing.
we
Yeah.
made the list.
Your YouTube is very impressive. Now, Facebook followers and Instagram followers, that's impressive, right? It's always impressive. But there's something about YouTube that makes it so much more challenging. And I know for a fact that there's agents that try it and they give up so fast. So what's your strategy on YouTube? If you wouldn't mind sharing with us, what is it that's helped you to gain so many followers on that platform?
Yeah, so I have a multi-tiered approach to YouTube. So my primary channel is just Brandon Doyle MN, and that's me talking about technology, which is something that I'm super passionate about. So I'll do smart home tours. I'll test different tech, like I've got the Apple Vision Pro here. I'm always testing new smart home stuff. We got things sent to me all the time for that. Which is, again, just a passion of mine. And so I'm sharing that information there, very educational, but a mixture of entertainment in there. And that channel is growing, and I do make money through the AdSense program, not a ton, but also through affiliate programs like Amazon and the Amazon Influencer program. So there's that side of it, which is a more broader audience, right? It's anybody looking at tech. And it does loosely tie to real estate as well. So I do share my expertise from real estate perspective. I share stories of sellers that have overheard things on their doorbell and got an extra $20,000. What happens when you sell? How do you remove these devices? What's personal property? What's fixtures? What adds value? What detracts from value? Actually, some people get intimidated by the tech, and so that's kind of the focus there. And now on our real estate channel, it's just Doyle Real Estate Team. You'll see that the views are a lot lower and the subscriber count is lower, but there's very high intent people. And the purpose of that channel is 100% search driven. So YouTube being the number 2 search engine that's out there. I create content around our local community, specifically new construction and the new construction communities. And so I'll do walkthroughs of the area. I'll do aerial, point out nearby amenities. And the idea is that, these buyers are often relocating from out of state, might not have an agent. They might not even physically be able to go to the space yet. And so they're doing their research online. And I provide a resource to them both via video and then on our website where I compare the listings with the page. So I've got, some information about the community, whether it's a neighborhood. If you're in a market where it's condos are popular, I think that's a great opportunity because it's just basically a vertical neighborhood. It's same concept. So if you're coming into this area, maybe you want to be in a specific elementary school, or you heard this is better. And so I try to go deep on things that you can't just search on MLS, that you're not going to find on Zillow. So it positions me as an expert, but then also when these people are looking, they're going to find me and they're like, okay, well, he knows what he's talking about. So they'll often reach out, and then I work with them, whether they're buying or selling. But in a lot of cases, it is people relocating to our area, specifically buying new construction, which is something I try to specialize in.
So I know you're super into the tech side of things, obviously, which is awesome. How do you stay on top of the tech? So is it just that you're super inquisitive? You have, different people that you're kind of plugged in with, or what are the things that you do to stay on top of all of this and to try it all out and to see what works for you?
It's just overwhelming how much free content is available online. So if you follow this channel, there's great real estate content. If you're into technology, there's equal channels for other things. So I consume a lot of podcasts, audiobooks. A lot of times I just listen to it in the car or at a faster speed. So I really enjoy that personally. And then just participating in the conversations in Facebook groups and contributing. I think I learn more by contributing to others than I do from just trying to ask for myself. So if you go in and you ask a question, I don't think that you get as much out of that as reading through and finding what other people are asking and then digging a little bit deeper of why they're asking those questions and seeing what common responses are. The search bar in the top right is a really powerful tool. It's a little magnifying glass. I feel like a lot of people overlook that.
They definitely
but between that and then conferences in person, I think are great. I try to do 2 or 3 a year whenever I can about different things, whether it's tech or real estate. Then books. So for the longest time, I would read every real estate book that came out because I was curating this list at the end of the year for Inman,
Yep.
the top books that I recommended. So it's
That's
slightly
so
out of frame
cool.
right now, but there's
Yeah.
a whole bookshelf of real estate books, 3 of my own in there, of course, but then
That's awesome.
a lot of others. So yeah, I would say reading, having conversations with people, definitely masterminding. And I love just meeting one-on-one with agents in different markets and just talking about what's working for them and
Yep.
bouncing ideas off of each other. Some of the best ideas I've had have gotten that way, or like outside of a conference room at a conference. So instead of the main session, it's these side conversations
It's the
that are
networking. Yeah.
happening in the hallway and at the bar. And
Yep.
one of the smartest marketers I met was at a conference, and all he did was buy like a bucket of beers and set it out at the lobby bar. And all of a sudden, all these like super smart
Amazing how
people
that
were
works.
coming up to him that were, would be really hard to access otherwise. I'm talking like CEOs, C-suite executives, high-level brokers that would have never taken this guy's call, but he just sticks the bucket of beer out there, and now all of a sudden,
Amazing what a beer can do.
yeah, exactly. And I said, well, beers here are $12 each, man. How can you afford to do this? And he's like, a booth is $20,000 at this event. That beer is more than paid for itself. And I've had no one will come talk to me at a booth. You sit there with your pamphlets. He's like, but I have this beer and I'm the most popular guy at the bar right now. And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
It's so smart. It's so smart. So
Jesse from Call Action, if anyone's wondering.
Oh, there you go. So keep an eye out.
Dude.
Yeah, keep an eye out for him and go grab a beer. So as far as you were mentioning before that you listen to a lot of audiobooks on, fast speed, I do the exact same thing. I have a long commute every day. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. What is your biggest recommendation as far as books, audiobooks, anything right now, other than your own, obviously? We'll get to that at the end. But what other books do you think are like top 3 that, people should be reading or listening to?
Like in the business, there's the classic, the Gary V's, the Start With Why, all that. I like to get into some more of the technical side sometimes as well. And I also love any of the autobiographies. I'm a Tesla guy, so I liked that Elon Musk book. Ironically, my wife said that after I listened to it, I think she thought I respected him less because of some of the things he's done. And I was like, well, that's true. I mean, he's a one-track kind of guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting
what it is, but
for sure.
Yeah, any of that type of stuff. It's obviously a lot of nonfiction.
So tell me what you've been doing now on more of like the training, the books. Let's get into that. What is some of that you're doing and kind of how that's morphed over time?
Yeah. So, well, if I go back to like the original idea for our first book, honestly, we were at a real estate conference. It was Inman. And my friend and I were sitting at the bar or dinner afterwards. And he said, this content is great, but I'm having a hard time relating to it because I'm in a Midwest market and these are luxury agents. And I really wish they would have got more granular on like, how do I implement this? Like, this is all fine and dandy in theory, but like, how do you apply this to the real world? And so we kind of set out to create this book. And, the next day I reminded him of our conversation and he's, oh yeah, we're going to do that. And kind of laughed it off. But we got back to Minnesota. I started a Kickstarter campaign just to gauge if there was interest there. We met our goal. And in that process, we actually met another guy that also was like thinking the same thing. And I said, hey, we all have these different perspectives. Why don't we come together and we're going to create this book about our experiences in real estate. And hopefully it'll be like educational and people will enjoy it. And it was an overwhelming success, bestseller upon launch. And this was, I think, I can't remember the exact years. It was a while ago. And so we had people reaching out and they said, I really like the book. Like, do you do coaching and consulting? And at the time I didn't, but the other two were kind of into that.
Yeah.
So we created this workbook. And so the workbook can be used for business planning. And every year around this, like beginning of the year or slightly before, I see like a spike. It's the same people. They buy the book every year. And if they would just reach out, I'd give them the PDF copy because I feel like it's no big deal at this point. But so through writing that book and the outreach, I just really enjoyed that process, and I had more ideas that I wanted to share. And
Yeah.
some people, they're not big readers, right? And so I created this playbook, and basically I was like, here's the idea of how you can market yourself, whether it's door knocking, internet leads, direct mail, and here's how you can implement it. Here's a story of someone across the country that did it. Originally, I wanted to have one agent for each tactic, and
Yeah.
everyone gets excited about participating in things like podcasts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When till it comes time to actually do something,
I know.
and I'm like, hey, remember you were interested in that? Like, could you just like type something up for me, or maybe we'll jump on a call, and then the back and forth. And so a lot of it is my personal experience or just observations of others in the industry. But what I tried to do is just boil it down so that if you want to do whatever strategy, you can flip to that chapter without having to read the whole book.
That's very
And then at the end, it gives you some resources as well. So like, if you're going to pursue this, here are some vendors that I've had experience with that I think might be helpful for you. That way you're not sitting through all these sales pitches and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then, yeah. And so the third book, Success Rate Marketing, came because these people were reading it, our first book, and saying, I shared this with my accountant friend because I thought that some of the things that you said would actually be applicable to that bit. And I said, well, yeah, of course, because at the core, it's a relationship business. And my big contribution to the book, like where I was coming from, is that you have to measure things, right? Like I would, in my exploration of like what makes a successful agent, I would talk to all these agents, and they didn't know. So I would see them doing things, and I would thought, well, then maybe that's what they did first to be successful, and I would try to replicate it. And
don't know.
I was like,
You're
wait a minute,
so
that didn't
right.
work.
They never know. They can't pinpoint it. They're like, I don't know. I just work. And you're like, well, what specifically do you focus on?
Yeah. And so I said, well, let's make, I want it to be like measurable and actionable. And so I set out to do that. And my whole like premise was this success rate. So what is the success rate on that strategy? Like how many postcards did I send, and how many did I get? How much, like beyond just return on investment?
Yep.
And then focusing on each segment along the way of the sales funnel, right? Like how many leads did I get? How many of those turned into appointments? How many? Like any coach would probably tell you basically the same thing, right?
Follow your numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, follow the numbers. And so the entire book is just kind of laying that out, but then also giving people kind of that business mindset, because most small business owners, like they didn't go to business school. They're just passionate about something. And then like, they do marketing, whatever. Like and they fall victim to these companies that sell them on something, right? Like, oh, if you just get these sales or whatever, you just give me this money and then you're going to get it through Google. They use the buzzword. So now it's AI. Well, it's AI powered. So I just want to cut through that. No bullshit. Like, what are the numbers? And like, how can we replicate that to scale our business? So if I made 100,000 last year and I want to make 200,000 this year, what do I have to do to get there? And so, that's kind of how the books came about.
That's awesome. Well, we will make sure to put some links to your books in our show notes, and also maybe the link to the worksheet so people can grab that as well. So I guess time has flown by, so we're already at the end here. So I want to ask my final question to you, which is, what is some advice that you would give to agents out there, especially right now in our climate of kind of uncertainty and chaos? Just when I think the market was starting to kind of like normalize, all this other stuff happened. So what would be some advice that you would give to people about, how to navigate this whole thing and, make it to the other side and still be having a life, like you mentioned at the very beginning, but also, being successful?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of agents that are worried about everything, right?
Everything.
And it's
so much
something new now, but before it was something else. And so I think a lot of agents get distracted, but at the core of everything, we are a relationship business. And so if you can focus on your core competencies of like actually being able to sell real estate, right? Like understanding how a transaction works and service your clients. I mean, that's pretty easy. But then just not being distracted by social media, not being distracted by lawsuits or whatever. Just focus on what works for you, what makes you happy, and what works for your clients.
Yep.
If you take care of people and you focus on relationships, you're going to be fine.
Yep.
And then the other part of it is treat buyers just like you treat sellers. So if you had a consultation with the buyer up front and you walk them through how buyer agency works, then none of this matters.
None
You've
of it
already
matters.
got your bases
And
covered.
there's no change.
Understand
Yep.
your worth. I think a lot of people are so tied to a number. And if that goes away, that how will I get paid? Well, you're a smart person. You're going to figure it out. If you are providing value, you will be compensated for that.
Yep.
The form might look different. Where it ends up on the net sheet might be different. A settlement statement. There might be some semantics. But what this lawsuit is doing right now is opening up the conversation.
Yeah.
And so if you can explain your value proposition in a meaningful way, well, then you're going to be just fine.
Don't worry about it.
You have nothing to worry about.
Exactly. Well, good. Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciated it. And I really enjoyed talking to you today and hearing your perspective. I think it's awesome to hear someone who's so, plugged into the technology, who runs their business by the numbers, because that's honestly kind of rare. Because like you said, there's a lot of big agents out there that are like, I don't know. They get either lucky or they just have a really strong presence in their market and people just don't know who else to call. I don't know what happens, but
It'd be interesting
definitely
to see their profit and loss statements.
I know, exactly. Especially now.
And some may be more impacted by change than others.
That's what I
But
was
at the core, what I found that with every top agent is that they've really mastered relationships.
Yes.
So
yep.
if you can't, it starts with that database. If you can't put together a list of people and get their name, their phone number, their email address, and their address, that's where you got to go back to. Just don't worry about anything else. Stop worrying about your business cards or your social media profiles or whatever new tech tools out there. AI, just go back, get their name, their email, their phone number, and their address.
Yep. It's shocking. We have a lot of agents that we've, brought into our company, and they're big agents with big books of business. And we look at them and we say, okay, so now give us your list, because we're going to put it into the system. And that way they can start to get your newsletter. And they're like, my list. And it's like, oh my God, you don't have a list? How have you done all this? And like, where are your clients going after you've served them that first time? Because they might not be coming back to you. And how much harder is it to get that, that first lead?
Think about how expensive it might be to generate a new client. Yeah. Whereas if you just go back and you find these existing people that worked with you and they were already happy.
They already like you. Yeah, clearly. So
I did a fun analysis of like 12 years worth of sales and looked at like, where did the people go? And like, how many of them are still in the home? And then I did this like sheet where I basically like made a tree, right? Yeah. So this deal originated here. They referred me this person, that person bought, they sold, and they referred me to their aunt, and then she did this and that, and they attributed points, right? Yeah. It was just fascinating to see how a little activity that I did very early in my career has had such a huge impact at this point. To the point where like we don't really need to worry about internet leads anymore. Yeah. It's we're a lot more selective now in who we work with because I got a bigger database to pull from.
What a great place to be.
Yeah. It was just fascinating to see that and that compounding effect.
And it's fascinating that you have the data to be able to do all the things that you're doing, because most people wouldn't even know where to start to do that. But
think about it. You can just go in MLS, put your Nerds ID in. It shows you all your past sales.
Show everybody.
Hit export, and then just go through the list and see if you can recognize the name. And like
our
also
MLS, keep an eye to see if they've sold with someone else, because then that's a little bit of a gut check.
Driving by and seeing that sales sign, or getting a mailer bounce back because they moved and they didn't use you. It's very painful.
It's very painful.
It'll teach people to really focus on being top of mind. But even anyone that has like a matrix, you can very quickly sort by put your Nerds number in as buyer's agent, and then when you click through, just go over the history tab, and if that sale isn't the newest sale, that means they moved, and then you can see like where'd they go and did they use you or not.
Yeah, and that's telling.
Very eye-opening.
People need that gut check every once in a while to make some changes in their business. So I think that's a great activity to do, like you said, just to get an idea of where you stand, where it's all coming from, and that helps to build your strategy moving forward. So this has been absolutely awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much. if you guys want to reach out to Brandon, I always mess up. Oh, there we go. I always like point in the wrong direction. There's his contact information right there for Facebook and for YouTube. Feel free to reach out to him. We'll also put your information into our show notes. You seem like such a wealth of information. I'm sure someone's going to reach out to you asking you questions. So thanks in advance for helping our audience today.
I love having conversations with people. So just don't be a stranger. I'm at Capacity on Facebook, friends, but you can follow me there or connect on LinkedIn. Reach out direct. You can even call me. I'm one of those weird people that answers their phone.
We're going to hold you to it.
All righty.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon, so much. And thank you all for listening, for watching. If you're on YouTube, we really appreciate you spending some time with us today, and keep an eye out for our next episode of The Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with your friends and colleagues, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you're interested in being a guest, email us at info@crushitinre.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to crush it in real estate.